Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here. I'm joined here today with Alice Beecroft, who is Senior Director of Global Strategy and Partnerships at Yahoo Advertising. We're going to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes talking about measuring what matters, closing the loop across customer journeys. So it's all about taking on one of the biggest challenges and opportunities within the retail media space right now. We believe that retailers sit on a vast amount of valuable data, yet much of that data remains underutilized when it comes to connecting digital spend to in-store sales. So with most purchases still happening offline, advertisers are increasingly demanding smarter solutions and ways of measuring the real-world impact of those digital campaigns. So hopefully that's what we're going to unpack over the next 10 minutes or so. So Alice, before we get into it, would you mind introducing yourself? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role and your focus at Yahoo.
I'm the Senior Director of Global Strategy and Partnerships. I work across Yahoo's DSP, their demand-side platform, focused on sort of product innovation and product development on everything from supply to retail media to measurement to insights, pretty much across the whole of the stack. I'm in a very fortunate position in that I work across all of non-US, so get to sort of work with the Canadians, the Australians, from Southeast Asia, the Europeans, etc. So really get a very sort of strong sense of how we should be developing the platform out from a global perspective versus just taking a sort of a siloed market view.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, that's great context. Thank you. This may be a little bit unfair, but I think lots of people, when they think of Yahoo, perhaps think of Yahoo as maybe a legacy brand, one of the early brands from the early stages of the internet, obviously strongly associated with the mail product. But as I understand it, Yahoo has got incredible reach. I think I'm right in saying something like 7 in 10 UK adults come into contact with the kind of Yahoo ecosystem once a month, which is phenomenal scale.
I know, it's huge, isn't it?
That is absolutely awesome. So how do you describe Yahoo's role in the retail media ecosystem? Because when I first look at it, I think, I don't quite get that. So how does that work?
I kind of see us as almost like one of those sort of first movers in the commerce space and in the retail space. As you said, sort of 7 in 10 people touch some element of Yahoo in a given month. In the US, it's 9 in 10. I mean, we are truly a very much global brand. This year was our 30th anniversary. I don't think there's many brands that can still, from a digital perspective, put themselves forward as having sort of survived for so long. But what we sort of bring to the table from a retail space is firstly the fact that there is such a trusted connection between the consumers that come in to Yahoo and the content that they're perusing. But it's not just the content that they're looking at, be it from finance, sports, news, etc. It's also the way that they're engaging with our other products. So in fact, I think I'm right in saying it's 1 in 5 people have a Yahoo email address, which you have one. I think a lot of people do tend to have either like a Yahoo or they have some sort of a legacy email account. And the beautiful thing about that is it's used for all of their purchases. They use it as a way of sort of, if you need like an email receipt, be it you're in store and, you're asked for your email address, or if you're sort of signing up for something, a subscription, or if you're just interested in something, or if you're doing your online shopping for like, your groceries, etc. A lot of people do actually use that sort of secondary email address. And through that, we're able to sort of bring to life in a very privacy-centric way, actually what people are purchasing. So not just across CPG, but also across, what flights are they booking? What hotels are they booking? Have you done a car rental? What cinema tickets are you booking? So really giving like a true view of what a consumer is actually doing. And I'll come on in a little bit as to why that's important, because it's that data married with retail data, like, in-store data, that is proving to be incredibly valuable for brands.
So it's right to say that it's not just about email, but email is an important part of it. But effectively, you're sitting on a massive, always-on consumer data database that is kind of measuring people or demonstrating people's interactions with businesses and brands.
And not just from a mail perspective, but also from a search perspective. So really sort of showing that intent as well. But it's the purchase data that is incredibly valuable in that retail space.
Yeah, I can see that would be super powerful. So you mentioned that obviously you work across multiple territories, not just the UK, so US, Australia, Canada, etc. So what kind of insights does that help you unlock? What can you tell us from that breadth of experience?
So obviously I've just talked about the data assets that we own. What we do with those data assets is we use that to build like an identity spine. So in the UK, I think globally we have something like 357 million logged in users, and that's in the last 30 days. In the UK, 11 million. So what we're able to do with those assets is by building that identity spine is then determine whether or not activation has actually taken place. Has that taken place in the online ecosystem? Has that taken place through your TV? Has that also taken place in off-store? There's like a major leading pet care brand that we've been working with for like numerous years. And one of the things that we've been doing with them is to marry up their digital activation with how is that impacting online through sort of, like your sort of, online grocery shopping, but also what's actually happening when they go into store. And the results from that, by being able to actually combine it, by bringing that offline data in, we were able to show there was a 60% incremental increase from a household perspective, 16% incremental sales were actually being showcased, and then a 77% incremental in ROAS. So it really does sort of bring back actually the value of doing digital activation, and I think that's the important thing to mention is Yahoo is very much focused on the online activation, the online off-site activation. That's where we come into our own, and we fundamentally believe that marketeers and brands and agencies need to be taking a look at not only what they're doing off-site, but also what they're doing on-site, what they're doing online, what they're doing offline, and start to measure all of that in a holistic way.
Yeah, which I think links back to what Rory was saying this morning.
Yep.
If you could kind of succinctly maybe kind of explain your view of what good measurement looks like, how should the brands and agencies be thinking about kind of measuring this dynamic between this digital activation and in-store sales?
So there's a lot of technical jargon that we could go into. There's a lot of sort of depth that's there. But arguably, if retailers have access to their point of sale data, or they have a partnership with like a loyalty card company that has access to that point of sale data, there's a key there. There is a key that allows you to link it in to companies such as Yahoo that have their own identity footprint. And through that, you're then able to measure, I'm not going to say real time, because we all know how point of sale data works. It doesn't all get surfaced straight away. It takes like a few days, etc. But you can do it in near as real time and actually understand, is the digital activation that you're doing impacting in the offline environment? And we saw earlier from what Kantar was saying, there is still so much activity and buying that's actually taking place in the real world. Yeah. It's happening in store. I mean, I think the Grocers World, I might have got that sort of industry press name wrong, but I think it was back in March. This is 75% of CPG is still happening in store. So you'd be completely remiss to ignore actually what is the impact of your digital activation taking place in store. So that's kind of like, how can you actually start to make use of that data? So there's different ways you can do it. Obviously, you can use one of the plethora of clean rooms that are out there and start to sort of mix and match the data to do the measurement. Now, for that, you're going to have people internally prepared to do that, able to do that. Secondly, there are sort of other types of onboarders that you can use, or you can partner with companies such as Yahoo that, again, are sitting on that very, very strong identity spine and bring that data across and in. Now, the beautiful thing about that is that allows brands, certainly primarily endemic brands, to be able to look at it from a multi-retailer perspective. So the way that Yahoo's working, if I take a look at what we're doing in the US especially, we saw Kroger earlier, Lowe's, Target, Costco. At the end of the day, it's very, very rare for, as a consumer, you only go into one shop. Yeah. You don't. Especially when it comes to CPG, you go to according to where it's cheapest. You go according to where the deals are. Sometimes it's down to locality. It's quite rare for people to only stick with one particular retailer. So we do feel it's important from a measurement perspective to look at that from a multi-retailer perspective. So bringing that into the Yahoo platform from a sort of a point of sale data perspective allows the brands to not only tap into the multi-retailer point of sale data, but also tap into the data that Yahoo's got. And as I mentioned earlier, we're already tracking what people are purchasing from a multi-retailer perspective.
In a compliant way.
In a privacy-compliant way, which I can talk to anyone about in a lot more detail if they're interested. But that's principally what brands are after, is they're wanting a simple way of measuring sort of incremental measurement lift, but not just from an online capacity, but also from a offline capacity as well.
So is it fair to say then you can start relatively simple?
Yeah.
You can see its scale, you can prove its value, and it can become more sophisticated over time.
Yeah, I mean, we have the most simplest schema possible, even to the point whereby we've been discussing it with IAB Europe as to whether or not this is something that could potentially be adopted by others. It's not as complex as people think it is, but it does require the retailer to actually have access to that data and have sort of organised it in a way that it is surfaceable.
And do you think if you get it right, there's a commercial opportunity, a value, that a revenue stream perhaps, that the retailers can create from getting that right? So if you can build a measurement capability that not only demonstrates the value of the campaigns that you're creating, there's actually, you can go one step further and actually turn that into a revenue source. Yeah,
and we're doing that already. I mean, a great example is the relationship we have with Afterpay in Australia. Okay. We launched their first retail media network on the Yahoo DSP, and they're using us both for their own media activation. They're using it for brands to tap in for data monetization, and also brands to tap in for measurement monetization. Now, got to be honest, they're not giving us the data and the measurement just, out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it in a way that brands see that it's valuable, and in turn, brands are paying for that. So it's a very, very easy way to think about another revenue opportunity. The one that I think is a little bit, kind of ties in a little bit more to what sort of Rory was saying earlier, is how can that open up potential for non-endemic partnerships?
Okay.
So the piece that Yahoo provides is also the insights. So by actually bringing that data in a controlled manner into the Yahoo platform, we can then layer on everything that we have. So straight away there, you're able to say, I mean, it's just a random example, say you've got a suntan lotion that's selling in a retail store, you can actually take a look to see not only how people index towards non-endemic brands in your retail, but also what do they do in your competitor retail as well. And you can start to build up a nice picture. Is it actually EasyJet that indexes more highly? Is there a greater affinity for British Airways? Is it Ryanair? Is it, I don't know, Air France, Lufthansa, Qantas, whomever? And thereby actually sort of start to figure out, is there actually a non-endemic partnership that you can actually start to evolve, which will happen in store, on site, arguably have nothing to do with what Yahoo's doing. So it's almost like that value proposition that comes back.
That's fascinating. I mean, given the kind of, I think, the interest and the belief that there is an opportunity for non-endemic brands to play in the retail media space, I think that's a really interesting potential unlock. If you could give retailers one piece of advice on measurement for the next 12 months, what would it be?
It's not as complicated as it seems. Come and talk to us. We'll explain the different methods that you can do it. We can do a crawl, walk, run. That's totally fine. There are lots of retailers that are already doing it. And
finally, if you could dispel one myth when it comes to retail media measurement, what would it be?
That everything has to be siloed. It doesn't. I think everyone talks about off-site measurement, they talk about on-site measurement, they talk about in-store measurement, they talk about online measurement. It can actually all be brought together.
Brilliant. Alice, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all soon.